Hi, everybody. Welcome to this empowering cloud briefing. I have Mark Vale, who needs no introduction if you're in this space, either on the community side or on the technical side. But Mark, for the one person who doesn't know who you are, give us a little bit of background, kind of the contracting days, what you're up to today, Comsverse, obviously.
Oh yeah, so we got 15 minutes to talk about Comsverse and 5 minutes to talk about Teams Phone, right? So
That's right.
so those who don't know me, my name's Mark, and I've been in the Teams space since the days of I think 2010. Microsoft MVP for my sins, like Tom, and I organise the UK's only, and therefore by default the largest Teams conference called Comsverse.
Yeah, a massive conference is really, really great opportunity to bring the entire space together, both the community and the ecosystem, which is great. And you're pretty deep. You've done some big phone rollouts. You're back doing phone rollouts again. Like we thought we'd have a dedicated session on Teams Phone because I feel like Teams Phone is not getting enough love at the moment. It's all Copilot, Copilot, Copilot. And we can talk about Copilot in Teams Phone, but let's talk about Teams Phone.
Yeah, I mean it sounds boring now, doesn't it? Compared to Copilot or agents or whatever it's called these days. But yeah, Microsoft chasing the money with Copilot, so why not? Well, yeah, I mean, Teams Phone's been around since 2018 now, in the first version. So it's grown over the years, and different features. Over the last sort of 12 months, I say the kind of features kind of slowed down a little bit as naturally the product gets more mature. And but yeah, if you want a business phone system integrated in your Teams collaboration suite, then Teams has a nice little add-on for you called Teams Phone, which you can connect your own carriers to through Operator Connect. You can go and go buy calling plans from Microsoft and have it completely white gloved, or you can go and do your own SBC, bring your own carrier through directly. You've got every flavor option of connectivity going as possible, and they keep on expanding interop as well, which is becoming more and more of the conversation lately. It's not so much the low-hanging fruit of making my Teams phone or my Teams client ring on a DDI base, but more a case of the business functionality or function phones. Even faxes are coming back into conversations these days, as well as like door access systems and franking machines for post services and all that type of stuff. It seems that people want to drive everything through their OC connection or through their calling plan through Teams to those devices.
Yeah, it feels like, as you said, the core functionality is kind of maturing out now. So earlier this calendar year, Microsoft went to 5.9 SLA on the cloud service. We're going to talk about some of the Ignite announcements, but the SBA going to 7 days token life is better as well for resiliency, and just lots of little features as well.
Yeah,
but as you say, this line of business is interesting too.
Yeah, it's all the little features. I mean, I don't know anybody who's deployed an SBA. I'm sure there would have been, at least one out there. It's a very kind of niche device that you need if it's probably going to be financial or highly available environments. But yeah, the 7 day thing is, obviously Microsoft aren't saying that their phone service is going to be offline for 7 days, because if they've got 5.9's SLA, why do you need a 7 day token on your SBA? But it's more of a case of the network in between.
Your internet connection.
You forget to renew a contract, or someone cuts a cable, and you need to. Your business needs to survive for a while. You've now got 7 days instead of, what was it before, 24 hours or something like that.
Yeah, it was up to 24 hours, which is a bit of a problem because then you didn't know the token life.
Yeah, so, but yeah, have that capability now. Obviously, the Qs app is probably the biggest mover in the Teams phone space. And it has the potential to probably displace quite a lot of, I hate to say it, but call analytics people should be a little bit worried about that product. It's not quite there yet, but if you want a cheap way of seeing like your real-time stats on all your call queues, on all your auto attendance and historic at a high level, 30,000 foot view, buy one Teams premium license and you can go and monitor all your queues
Yeah, if you're happy with the call queues and auto-attendant routing, but you're missing the visibility, they're plugging that gap. As you say, it's early, but if that keeps being invested in, and it's very aggressive pricing because it's part of Teams Premium as well. As soon as you want advanced routing or AI or line of business, you're back to ecosystem contact center, aren't you? Or
For
is that
now,
your thought too?
yeah, for now, I think the gaps are constantly closing, aren't they? So obviously, Microsoft got their Dynamics 365 customer service thing now, which is quite a heavy price point compared
They were
to.
actually at. I was speaking at Call and Contact Center Expo in London this week, and they were at there with a stand, which is the first time though I've seen them in person pushing the Dynamics 365 contact center. So it's yeah, they're coming for that higher end contact center space as well.
Yeah, I think they've announced that they've got a few, big label customers on board for the early adopters, which is good. When you look at Copilot Studios and the voice-enabled agents that are in there, they're all. If you want them connected to the PSTN, it's through D365 customer service at the moment. So they're going a big way in sort of the high-end contact center space. It's reasonable to assume that in the next few years they will come down and they'll start to attack the smaller contact centers. But I think it's just the way of the world. We see it in with Zoom and 8x8 and all the other vendors. So, but that's where innovation is triggered and keeps people on their toes and it keeps other partners and vendors pushing the boundaries, right? So it's all healthy competition at the end of the day.
Definitely. And what about what like Teams Phone? We're up to 20 million phone seats now, probably a bit more because that announcement's a little bit older. What are you seeing? I'm seeing a lot of large enterprises just ticking along. It's not like they're going and doing 20,000 seats at a time. It's more like this PBX is now end of support. Now we'll cut this office over. But what are you seeing? 'Cause I know you do all different scales as well.
Yeah, so I think I think we probably have been at the top of the curve for a little bit with Teams Phone, at least for now. You've got a lot of different ways of communicating at the moment, in this modern day, where voice used to be the primary communication modality, but now it's probably second or third place choice. You've got obviously your federation stuff. So what we're not seeing thousands and thousands of users coming on board every month. We're seeing hundreds in 1,000+ organizations. So it's
Yeah.
still, DDI type of stuff. It's still probably 10-12% of the workforce on average, which has been pretty much the same since 2015. The shared calling piece, that's probably a large portion of that 20 million, because you can class it, if you're enterprise voice enabled, it's a voice seat at the end of the day. I know.
Yeah, I think actually interestingly that 20 million number I think came out pre the shared calling. So I expect the next bump will be there's some big customers I know have done shared calling, but it doesn't. For those not familiar, shared calling is the ability with Microsoft to share a single pay-as-you-go calling plan over hundreds or even thousands technically of users and just do pay when they make a call. They have no inbound DDI, but they can make an outbound. I expected that to make a bigger wave, and obviously the telcos are not talking about that a lot, although they can support it because they're
We don't want to
DDI
talk about
driven.
it, do it, because we don't make any money from it. That's why we don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
You look at the commercials. You go, hang on a minute. You got Tom who's got a DDI, and I'm paying £5 a month for this person for Tom, and I've got this person who's on shared calling through the same connection, having the same experience apart from direct inbound, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm paying a pound a user. What's the difference? Why is Tom's £4 more? So there is a lot of
And from Microsoft's point of view, they're not expecting people to go out and buy Teams Phone Standard to activate that scenario. It's more like they've got just this massive white space of E5 licensed customers who are like, those users don't use phone enough to bother activating. But if I can activate them for very little cost to make the occasional outbound call, that's quite a nice feature add for them.
Yeah, it's a feature add. I wouldn't say it's a primary thing. I know one government agency who use it quite extensively, but But again, that's because they've got their E5 licenses and they're just using it because it's easy just to give the ad hoc use than put a barrier in place. Commercially, I think we still need to work it out. Whether that's a little bit higher on the rate cards for calls through ad hoc calling or what have you. But generally speaking, these days, everyone's got one of these, right? So if they need to make a phone call and they haven't got Teams phone, they're going to use their phone to make a call. So I think the use case for that is going to be a hard sell, and we see it as a hard sell.
What's your take on Teams Phone Mobile? So again, for level set for everybody, that's the cellular provider providing the DDI.
Well, the fact that we've only got 6 worldwide and it's been out for 18 months probably tells a story there. There is, a push on FMC again. I think the market is resistant to it at the moment. They don't quite understand.
Yeah, you've got Tango coming the other way, haven't you? Which is like extending the fixed line to the mobile.
You see, that one's a more interesting use case than just having a mobile number in my Teams client and on my mobile phone as well. Because I think nobody really cares as long as they get what number they've got, as long as someone can phone them. But the Tango way of doing it, which is fixed line to mobile through Teams, that's got more business case, I think, than the Teams Phone Mobile as a whole, in my personal opinion. People might not agree, but that's their privilege, I guess. But if you think about, you go to Asda or Sainsbury's, do your home delivery shopping, is out for delivery, you live in whatever, the delivery driver can't find you, gives you a phone call from their mobile device. Probably you don't want the customer knowing that delivery driver's personal mobile device or company mobile. So at least it allows them to call you for directions or what have you, using like your store number as the caller ID.
You maintain control of the number. Yeah, so if that driver goes away or you want to swap that number to a different driver, you can keep the number.
Yeah. But then you also get, because the media goes through Teams, you also get all your compliance stuff around it. You get your call logs and even put call recording on it and stuff like that. So, there's use cases there, certainly in logistics, mainly I say, and probably medical as well. You got field nurses and what have you, and carers going out. They don't want that personal phone number being exposed. There's opportunities there, so I think that's more exciting. But we'll see. I don't see much, much or any questions really asked about the Teams Phone Mobile piece.
I feel like nobody knows about it because the carriers that have had it haven't. I mean, maybe done some token marketing, but it's not getting through to the customers I talk to. Whenever I say Teams Phone Mobile, they think I mean the app.
Yeah, that's it. I think I think as soon as Microsoft put a bit of budget behind their marketing to lead the front on that, I think it'll gain a little bit more traction. But
Canada just got Bell, so they've got a second carrier. US is going to have AT&T as second carrier, and me and you in the UK, we've got BT at the moment. We're going to have VM02 and Voda coming. So I think that will stimulate more conversation, because once it's there's competitive options in the market, because also I think customers are resistant to picking a single carrier solution and being locked in, because where do they get their users addicted to Teams Phone Mobile, and then the one operator that has it has got them, basically. Yeah,
that's it. And there's also the kind of a lot of customers these days want a single hand to shake or throat to choke, don't they? So if their OC provider can't do mobile, it's more of a decision to want Teams Phone Mobile than just having it as an add-on because your carrier supports it. There's also the question of like the whole like dual SIM entry. For phones, are business phones going to make a comeback? Are we going to go away from bring your own device and go back to 2 phones to make it easier? Who knows?
I see more 2 phone in Europe. Like US seems to be okay with bring your own mobile and having port push over to it, but certainly the enterprise, this side of the pond, they're worried about the data, so they either go down that weird containerization apps kind of route on the personal mobile, which is a bit clunky, or they just admit it and own the device.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think it's got time will tell whether it grows. But again, if somebody needs it, there's a solution out there for them. They don't need to go to another provider, so it can be done.
What about extensibility? You mentioned in your intro there about we've got the Team SIP gateway, we've obviously got SBCs, we've got analog, we've got fax, God forbid, still in the mix. Like that's never going to die apparently.
Never dying. Never dying.
Well,
Honestly, we sell hundreds of fax lines over in the US.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But there is, I think, we the way we work and the customers that we work with, the customers are already all in on Microsoft, so they're already familiar with the ecosystem and the way that Microsoft want you to work in the modern world, and it can be quite easy to just accept that as global reality. On the customers that I'm speaking to at the minute, these are very green Microsoft customers, right, in the mid-market space. Like they don't really have that holistic view.
Let's define mid-market because it's different things, different people. What kind of seat counts range are we talking here?
Sub 1,500,
right?
And even into the mid to high hundreds, really.
And are they not typically Exchange Online like M365 business accounts, or are they Google shops? How do they do IT? I don't know.
All over the place. It seems to, at the moment, we have a mix, but the predominant factor is that their IT team aren't Microsoft specialists. They've just kind of picked up Entra ID and they do it because they're using Exchange Online, or they've still got Exchange on-prem and they've got hybrid mailboxes and stuff like that going on. And they use
they're very pieces. Early on that Microsoft Cloud journey compared to the enterprise. Then
exactly. They use pieces, and they still pieces of Microsoft Cloud, and then they still use other third-party apps and what have you for different things. They've got whether it be Ring, whether it be API 8, whether it be Cisco still phone systems. They still think in that mode of I need to replace my phone system, so I need to go and replace it with a phone system, and they don't quite understand the journey towards Teams. And then when we talk to them and show them what Teams can do, we can start getting into conversations like, well, I want extension dialing. Well, you can't have that on Operator Connect, but you don't need it. You dial by name. Oh, right, okay. But I dial this short string, 5555 to get through to IT. How am I going to do that in Teams? Well, we can kind of do that, but we're doing it in a slightly different way. So the hardest bit is getting them to switch. We had one customer who was adamant that they wanted to replace every single handset they have in their entire business with a Teams handset, because that's what people are used to. And they're not investing in the story and the journey and convincing the business to modernize, to say, well, actually, no, things are changing. We are changing our phone system. It isn't going to be
maybe IT in that in that sizable don't feel empowered to pitch back to the business. They're very subservient to the business. So the business is like, we use phones, we want phones.
Yeah, there is that pressure where they are subservient to the business, especially in sort of high pressure businesses like law firms and what have you. It's like, don't get in the way.
Don't rock the boat.
Yeah, that's it. They've got a phone today, replace it with a phone. We'll deal with the fallout later. So that is the biggest piece now. It's a case of like those customers tend to expect Teams phone to work like a PBX, like their PBX that they're used to, and it doesn't quite. It's close, but it doesn't quite work that way. So they're still a little bit resistant to change in that manner. But what we are seeing a lot of things, more interesting integrations. So multicast page into Teams phones coming up quite a lot at the moment. So
interesting.
Being able to send out voice announcements to a group of phones and what have you, that's coming up tons in education, and sort of like care institutions and what have you, where, if they've got an emergency or what have you, they need to go and send out a page to every phone to say, that type of stuff. And, and other things.
Can you do that today with a SIP gateway registered, like a
You can do it with
VBX or
Teams
something like
phones.
that?
You can do it with native Teams phones.
With all the OEMs or just particular OEMs?
Poly CCX 500s, 600s, they do it. Audio codes do it. Pretty sure Yealink do it. The CCX 350s don't. But the Poly ones, because they come with the Teams firmware on, but you can switch them to OpenSIP. Whatever it's called, the native one, so they can dual switch. So you can do the broadcasting on to the multicast address, and when one comes through, it will context switch and play the broadcast. So you can do that on sort of the mid-market Teams phones. Get yourself an algo or whatever to send that out, and it'll work. Don't need to gateway for that. So they're coming up. Customers now want more granularity in their OC configuration as well. So it's not just a case of like, yes, we've got this brilliant network. We drop your numbers into Teams. You assign this number to your user, and away you go. They now want to have control over, what types of destinations that number can call, or the user can call and stuff like that. So with OC, it's kind of like, any number's fine. It's down to carrier level portal to restrict that number. It'd be nice to be able to bring in the kind of flexibility we've got with direct routing to be able to prevent those calls ever leaving Teams, and that will, that'll help the carriers out because they don't have to tool up.
Boost like beyond OC and do it on the back end, which is hard to scale out.
And customers don't want multiple portals, right? They don't want to go Teams Admin Center for assignment, go to another portal for call plan assignment, go to another portal for analytics, go to another portal for call recording and stuff like that. They want it all either in the Teams Admin Center or in the in an app that a carrier might provide access to all those tools. So SIP gateway is becoming more of a thing. Not so much for SIP phones, but more for the integration to like intercoms.
So the algos, the SpectraLink DECT, that kind of thing.
Overhead pages, postage machines as well, who need to dial over VoIP as a virtual modem. They still play tones back to. I don't know if that actually works. We've had one customer ask for that, and we're like, we'll give you an ATA and we'll see what happens. But if it's G711,
there's something in that box turning it from IP to phone. Then we're putting a box in that turns it from analog phone to digital phone, and then on the other end we're digitizing it again. It could just have hit a server from the box, but it's super common. Like these, or like things like lift or elevator phones as well, or security phones, things, or specialist hardware phones. There's a bunch of that stuff out there.
Yeah, that's it. It's a device that probably gets used once a week. It probably costs £5,000-6,000, and they don't really want to replace it because it's not broken. So it's just make the connectivity work. But obviously we can go and drop in POTS replacement lines for that type of service, right? But customers don't really want to break out their telephony. They want to be able to serve all their telephony needs through Teams or through their OC connections. So they want Teams to basically be top of the tree almost, and then fan out to all their connected devices. So SIP gateway is only going to grow as we start to get into those niches, because it's those types of customers that have been like not laggards but late adopters.
It's interesting.
Be waiting for that functionality before they make that leap.
And I think they're proportionally heavier phone users. Like if you look at Microsoft Teams phone numbers and the market in general, the next 20 million seats could well be SMB mid-market, because they're much more web to phone. The proportion of their users that need phone are higher because they're more customer facing, more external facing. But as you said, it's really interesting to hear some of the things you picked up on, like things like tightly controlling dial plans. Like I feel like in enterprise that was really important 5 years ago, and now they're like, oh, it's fractions of pence, and we'll deal with it at the like a kind of a discipline level, not a technical level. It's
Yeah,
just free for all these days.
yeah. But as you come down the markets into the smaller piece, those businesses are earning less, and the revenue becomes more of a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's perfectly
so,
perfectly valid requirement.
so it'd be interesting to see how it grows. I think there's going to be a big desire, strong desire from Microsoft to attack the sort of mid-market small business space.
Yeah.
So these sorts of features are going to have to come in now. I think the enterprise is largely a done deal. Like if you're in with Microsoft, then you're having Teams Phone because
Yeah.
there really is no other
It's
option.
in the suite and
That's it.
security. And also, if you're invested in AI, you've got AI in meetings,
Yeah,
AI in phone. It would be odd to pick a different phone system at this
yeah,
point.
exactly. Like you say, I've invested in Copilot, I've invested in Microsoft 365. I'm all in on everything else. I've even got Windows 10, and I'm doing autopilot and all that type of stuff. It would seem absolutely stupid to go to somewhere like Zoom and say I want Zoom Phone because Zoom Phone is more feature
Well,
rich than Teams Phone, and it's like, right,
there's the sound bite for the podcast.
yeah, that's it, probably. But you're not going to go over there to buy that because then you
No, if you're
essentially putting it all in an island, and it's how you're going to integrate with everything that you've invested in Microsoft. It makes no sense.
yeah. What about the admin side on the SMB and mid market? Is that still challenging? I mean, I feel like it's challenging for enterprises who have specialists who are supposed to look after teams. So I imagine having PowerShell and Teams Admin Center and Microsoft 365 Admin Center and Pro Portal if you've got rooms. How does that
Yeah.
scale down to a 1,500 seat customer?
Well, there's two ways, and probably 2.5 ways when you mix them together. Most mid-market customers want managed service, so they're like, I want to pay you guys a fixed amount of money per user per month, and I want you to take that problem away from me. And that seems to work really well in the mid-market space. There are some that'll say, no, I want to save a couple of dollars a user a month or whatever it might be. I'm happy to take that on myself. Just point me to where I need to go to. I mean, Teams Admin Center these days, it's way better than it was when it first released, and you can do
Yeah.
pretty much, there isn't much beyond, the odd kind of niche thing that you have to drop into PowerShell for, or if you want to do bulk changes. But from an ad hoc change perspective, you do everything in Teams Admin Center. Now you can even configure your callback in queues now in Teams
Well,
Admin
it's
Center.
usually new or obscure stuff, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
adding a phone number. It's like some esoteric
yeah.
policy or capability come out I want to turn on or
That's
turn off.
it.
So I guess you could still lean on your provider for that.
Yeah, the callback in queue is a good example, right? It was a new feature. It was released like, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago now. And originally it was like, yeah, you can configure this in PowerShell, and like I think it was last week, Michael Lamontagne put it on there saying, "Oh, take a look in TAC. You can now do it in
It's
TAC,
appeared,
right?"
yeah.
So they're getting a lot better in sort of integrating those new features into TAC. So take a bow, Jamie Stark, if you're still doing TAC, I guess. So I think the biggest problem with attacking the SMB space is not necessarily an operator's problem or teams. It's the challenge of navigating the prerequisite licensing for the SMB.
Yeah.
To get to that point, there's lots of different options out there, and decoupling Teams now away from all suites, that's going to push the cost up.
Well, and the cost is going up for those who haven't been following the news. So Microsoft's putting Teams Phone Standard up from $8 to $10 per user per month. So that's a 20% jump.
I priced it up versus, and it's not really comparative, but I priced it up. If I was an SMB customer and not invested in Teams, I would have to just take in the basic stuff to a pay-as-you-go to a calling plan. It would cost me around about $23, $25 a user a month for everything, including my minutes. And Ring offer pretty much, if you just doing on a phone system basis, at $20 a user a month. So
Yeah.
Teams is already $3 a user a month more expensive, times by 300 people, it adds up, right? So,
and then you said the key sentence there, if I'm not already invested in Teams, because it's a culture shift, it's an upsell. Like, we could both sit here and argue the pros of everything you get with Teams that you don't get with Ring. But if I've come to you saying I want a phone system, and then almost it's kind of challenges, because then you're having to repitch the value of going Teams and M365 and all the upside, and look at your meetings and look at it. So it becomes a bigger conversation.
Yeah, but then the customer needs to be open to that conversation. If it's just a case of, no, I want a phone system, it's like, where do you go from that, right? We're just competing on nuts and bolts. And so it's quite an interesting space, because some will be strategic and go, yes, we know that Microsoft is the way to go, and we've got a larger plan. We're going to go and do our phones first, and we're going to do meeting rooms second, and we've got it all kind of like loosely straw-manned out as a roadmap. And others will just be like, we've seen Zoom, we've seen 8x8, we've seen Ring, now we're seeing Teams. Sell me Teams. Tell me why Teams is better than these other phone systems. And it's like, well, do you use any of the Microsoft Suite today? Now we've got Gmail or G Suite and stuff like that. But you tell us, you tell us why. And let's just let you know, we prefer Zoom Phone right now. And it's like, well,
you might as well, you might as well quit there, to be honest. Because it's like, unless you're open to a conversation about changing the way you work holistically, it's a tough pitch. And to give Zoom credit, I feel like they should be pricing aggressively and sweeping up that mid-market, because that is their upside, is they can just specialize and if you're a Gmail shop, it's a good pairing, but if you're a Microsoft shop, doesn't make so much sense.
No, but I think if Microsoft could make that journey for net new customers easier for small businesses to say, like, I want Teams Phone, and then they click a button, and Microsoft has a way of saying, right, log in with your Microsoft account if they've got one. Right, okay, this is your tenant. These are the licenses that you've got. So these are
meet them where they are, kind of thing. Rather than us trying to convince this millions of small businesses that they should see the light of the cloud stack, just be like, if you just want phone, just start with phone, and we'll bring the rest later if and when your business wants it.
Yeah, love that idea. And just go, right, okay, you've got all these licenses that you probably never knew you had assigned. That they're the prerequisites. You just need Teams Phone. And click here, buy now. Do you want to use Teams calling plan? These are the plans that we've got. Click here, buy now. Or do you want to connect to operators? Click here, choose your operator. Go through e-commerce. Yep, there's your numbers. 15 minutes later, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so wizard them through that whole experience.
Take them on a journey from website to actual phone in the client. So there you go, from a basic setup perspective, get them calling inside 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is, and just make it super
this is where
easy.
Zoom and Ring have that advantage, because they're focused on one particular workload. You can go from website to credit card to phone number in a relatively short number of clicks, because you're not building an entire tenant or having the conversation about, do you want premium, or do you want this, or do you want that?
So when you go to enterprise, no one's going to buy with a credit card, right? And it's going to be a consultative sell. Right, so but it doesn't matter. But when you go into mid-market, the people who are buying it aren't going to be phone experts. They aren't going to necessarily know much about Microsoft and the reasons as to why they should invest in it. They're going to be armed with their credit card, and they're just going to go, yeah, that price looks right. Where can I buy? And if that purchasing journey is complicated, they're going to just go, no, I'm going to close that down somewhere else. So I think I know there's. Me and there's a program in the background in flight that's penned to make that process a little bit easier. So we'll see what happens of it.
Yeah, awesome. Right, well, we've run well over time, but I didn't want to stop the conversation because it's awesome. I think this is such an interesting space. It feels like the big potential opportunity for Microsoft in phone, but interesting to hear your perspective. And I think there's some opportunities for Microsoft to streamline that, particularly for the telcos, to help them, make it a fit for those customers.
Yeah. I think though it's a case of what's next for Teams Phone, right? So I've got to get the word agentic in there, right? So we got to build an agentic Teams phone experience,
Well,
right?
so they did announce at Ignite the genuine extensibility of phone scenarios, didn't they? Which is interesting because there'll be API access to do CRM integration, and there's stuff coming from the ACS team around jumping into the media streams as well, which gets really interesting.
Yeah, it's like I foresaw that in the UC Status podcast a few weeks ago, right?
I heard you guys trying to take credit for it. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure from idea to dev it was 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's it. It's probably, but there's a lot of real estate in the Teams call window when you're in a call that's just wasted. So bringing in, contextual CRM or what have you will be good. But actually, you think about, the way that AI is going and how can AI actually improve the phone call. I got a few sort of like, wouldn't say wild ideas, but we could make voicemail great again by actually, giving more contextual reasons as to why they're away. Like, if your presence is away, it's like Tom's, stepped away from his desk right now, but he's going to be back soon. Do you want to leave a message? That sort of stuff.
Where's our live voicemail? Where's our in flight? Like Mark's leaving you a message. Do you now want to jump in? Like I never answer unknown numbers ever. But I'd love to know mid message.
But you used to have that in the old voice answering machine days where you could hear the voice.
You could listen to it.
And go, I'm here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see who it was first. Bring that back. What about a real time Babelfish type thing where everyone could talk in their natural language? That would be a pretty good one.
Well, again, we saw at Ignite, we saw the live translation demo for meetings. Conceptually, same thing on phone.
Yeah, I don't mean the tech stuff. I mean actual voice. Take your voice.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw it, but they did voice to voice in Ignite with the OpenAI advanced voice stuff. So it's live dubbing. It's even impersonating the person's tone. There's about a 3-second delay, so it's more suited to a meeting than a phone call scenario. But you think about again, medium-sized business. They might be supporting all sorts of languages, particularly American businesses. Like there's a lot of languages. Like you won't have people with all those languages. So actually, that kind of thing could be really powerful.
If you want to have a bit of a laugh after this conversation, just go to tomato.ai, and then let me know what you think. But actually, I think there's one sort of use case that I would particularly love, and it probably would make me want to pay for Copilot if it ever came out. But I suffer with very short concentration spans. So if a conversation is really not getting me engaged, I will just switch off. Like my brain switches off, and I can't, even though my ears are hearing the person, I'm not taking it in. And then they ask me a question, I go, and then I've got to either say it's either going to be a yes or it's going to be a no, and which one's going to get me in the least trouble, and go with that one. So if there was a way of like AI always listening and sort of like replay a summary into your ear to say like, or jump in and step in to provide context.
Well, again, it's both, isn't it? So you can have Copilot on your Teams phone call now. It live transcribes and you can query it. There's just a bit of lag there where if that happened, you would be text querying it. It would be summarizing, reasoning, generating. Yeah, if it was more like your buddy that was like had your back, that was like, when you're on a multi-person call at a company and somebody else can be like, oh, I think the thing is this or that. Yeah.
It's just having that extra support there, just to make you not look a bit stupid. But yeah, there we are. Be interesting. Make the humble phone call sexy again.
Well, I mean, there's the potentials there, isn't it? I mean, we've been talking about CBP, communication enables business process, and API extensions like that forever. And it feels like AI is giving that a real shot in the arm to be like, oh, now we can really add value. And that's where the conversation changes of like, why am I moving to Teams phone? Well, because I want all my PSTN calls transcribed in AI. That is a compelling business reason that is not, I'm arbitrarily switching phone systems.
Yeah, that's it. Transcribe it, store it, put it in purview, compliance. It's cheaper to store, it's cheaper to process.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mark. So I think we plugged all the key things, but Comsverse being the big one. Anybody this side of the pond got to be there. The UC Status podcast that you do with Randy and Sean as well, worth mentioning that. That's if you're more deep in this space, that's a really good one, full of opinions on our space, which I enjoy.
It's where Microsoft get all their ideas, so we say.
So I hear. So I hear. Basically, yeah. It's the roadmap, just 12 months ahead of time.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. And where can people find you, Mark?
These days on LinkedIn. That's pretty much the only social network that I'm on daily. So just look me up on LinkedIn if you want to get in touch.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, mate. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. Take care.